If you dream of your motorcycle, if your day isn't complete without some time in the saddle, if all you need is the open road and a full tank of gas, well, you've come to the right place, because this is Throttled, and it's starting now. Here's your host, Kevin McKinney.
Hello and welcome back to Throttled, everybody. Thank you so much for watching and tuning in. I think we're going to have a good show. We are back at, I guess we consider this full strength. We've got Chris, Tom, and Larry back on the show, and it's been a while since we've talked all together. Today's show is probably going to be just topic oriented. Don't know if we're going to get into any news. A couple of things out there, but we may wait and do more of a news centric show here next week. So, gentlemen, let's see who do I want to. We're going to pick on Chris first because he's been avoiding our calls, and so we're going to pick on him first. So, Chris, how you doing, man?
I am doing pretty good. Yeah, finally the call got through, so it's good to be with you guys tonight.
Yeah. Like Labor Day was the last time Chris was on, or something like that.
No, is it that gosh. I know it's been at least 4 episodes, but
yeah, and we took like a month off. So
I know I've been kind of MIA, but it's always good when I get a chance to hang out with you guys. So
man, we just
thank you for having me once again.
You're always welcome, and we've missed you, brother.
Been doing any riding in the northern tundra?
Not this weekend. Last weekend, let me think. 2 weeks. Wow. I don't know. This has happened to you, Larry. Like you can't remember one week to the next. Am I getting old or something?
Yeah, it's part of senility. Yeah.
Sorry to say, Chris.
Early senility. I did ride. I think it was last weekend or it was the weekend before. We just went out, did one of my little favorite loops on Long Island. I did have the heated gear going because it was mid to low 30s, something like that. But it was nice and comfortable with the gear on. So yeah, so that was good. Actually, yeah. Okay, come to think of it. Yep. Okay, see, it's coming to me. The onion's not totally peeled. It was last weekend. It was with my buddy that has the R6, who I've done a track day or two with, and we went down to the beach. So yeah, it was nice, but it was windy, and there's a stretch. It's called Robert Moses Causeway that goes basically from the Barrier Island, across Long Island, not Long Island Sound, but across the bay up to the main part of Long Island, and the winds was like 35, 40 miles an hour. So it's like a 2-mile bridge just across the open water, basically. So it's kind of interesting and challenging. It'll keep you awake.
I remember the Robert Moses Freeway.
Yeah.
I have no idea. So, Tom, we'll go Tom. We'll just go around the box that way. How you doing this week, buddy?
Good. Riding wise, no, nothing. Other than class this weekend. So road to class, rode back home. It's cold as hell of doing a class this weekend. Didn't get any social riding in. But had a good class of 7 guys. It was kind of weird. This was I think my first class in about a year and a half in which I did not have any women in the class. So that was bizarre. I mean, it's really been every class that I've had has been at least 20 to 30% of women, and this was just a small class, like I say, just 7, but all guys. So that was a little different. Maybe I don't know, maybe because of the weather and beginning of January, and who wants to go riding and taking a motorcycle course at that time of year. I gave them credit for coming out in that, but yeah, that was it for my riding. So that little bit of chilly going around the parking lot.
Yeah, it's interesting because what is the percentage of women riders now? It's what, 15%, I think, something like that.
I thought it was like 19% is the latest, and it's supposedly the largest.
Is that the latest
growth group?
Yeah, I was thinking it was closer to 20.
Well, good.
And like I say, I've had 2 or 3 in every single class, so this was unusual.
A small sample size.
This is true.
I mean, it is colder, and that's my experience is in the colder classes, the women I think they prefer just to wait till they're going to enjoy it more. And, the guys are just like, I can handle it. Of course,
Yeah,
I'm a wuss right now. I'm not like they asked me if I wanted to coach any in January and February. I was like, no. It's like, nah, I'm good.
Yeah,
So-
we were starting off in the morning at about for Atlanta cold. It was 28 to 30. My ride there is fairly short. It's barely 10 miles, but I had the heated jacket on high. I had the heated seat on. I had my grips on high, and it was still a little chilly. The worst was you get to the range and you got to open up the locks, and the locks are all frozen. So then you're standing out in the cold because you didn't really dress for it because you had all the heated gear, and you're freezing your butt off trying to get the locks undone to get into everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
That's what Lloyd says. It's proof that the women are the smartest sex, and that's what I was thinking too.
Perhaps I was considering as far as the wisdom of even teaching a course this past weekend with that weather.
so Larry, what about you, my friend? You do
Well,
any
I,
riding in the freezing temperatures of your area?
I held back on commenting on my riding because indeed it has been chilly for us. During the days it's been in the 50s, and at night it's dropped into the low 40s. So that has been a bit of a deterrent. But I had a couple of medical appointments this week, nothing serious, and it kind of interfered with my time for riding. So sad to say, I did not get to ride the bike this week. And I will try to make up for it. Oh, the other thing was we did have rain a few days this week, so that was also I know real men go out in the rain too, but I chose not to. So hopefully next week will be a better week. What about you, Kevin?
Yeah, no riding for me this week. Just life, but and I mean, yeah, we had the rain and cold and just days that were dreary, and I just never got out. And when I did have an opportunity, I chose to get some other stuff done that I needed to. So we'll see. And I mean, as long as it's down, like I don't think today barely got above freezing. Seemed like today it was cold all day long. So I mean that's right now. That's probably going to keep me in the house. 40. Once it gets up 40 and above, I'll throw on the heat again and get back out. All right. Well, glad that we have everybody back in today. And so the topic of today's show, because I'm sure this is what everybody out there in the world wants to hear, it's can we be honest about our bikes and rides? So, and I will give the backstory of how this came up. Tom gave a blistering, opinionated, slightly partisan opinion of the Indian motorcycles. He did caveat it by saying, I'm not a cruiser guy, but it was very, I think even he would agree, maybe a little one-sided. But we're wondering, can we be that critical about our own bikes? And so that's kind of what we're going to do today is we're going to review with a critical eye, without it turning into a wine fest, our bikes, and that's going to be today's show. So there you go, spoiler. So who would like to volunteer to go first?
I think Tom should go first.
Okay.
You think me, since I was critical of I instigated this?
Well,
with
I mean,
my
we know
critiques of
Larry's got like a small report that he's mastered up with, indexes.
I'm just finishing up the 5th page, guys.
So, we'll let Tom kick us off, and then, if the show suddenly ends, that's how well it's going. So,
I will kick us off then. Okay, so, I have 2 bikes. I've got the GS and the Vespa. Let me start with the latter first, because that one's fairly quick on the Vespa. I have a Vespa 300 GTS. I don't have much of a critique on that other than, yeah, you'd like a little bit more power and passing power on it, but it's a CVT transmission, so I understand what it is, and I know that I don't have the really the ability when I ride that to pass a vehicle. I've really got to plan ahead. So there's like virtually no torque other than off the line. It's got great torque when you're starting off from a stoplight, but beyond that, virtually nothing to get you going. Um, I would like and this is odd coming from me, the seat height to be a little bit lower. So on the Vespa 300, the seat height is about 31 inches. And that's a challenge if my wife wanted to ride it, or she has shown some interest in perhaps of learning to ride the scooter. She did a little bit. We did some parking lot lessons when I had a Honda Elite 110, and that fit her fairly well. But this one, she's 5'3", so it's a little bit of a stretch. Like a Vespa 150 probably would fit her better, but it would be nice if the seat was a little lower, a couple inches lower. Although, like I say, that's odd coming from me. That's about it as far as from the Vespa standpoint. All right, so let's go on to the GS. So the caveat here, obviously, is this is my second GS. I have owned GSs since 2014, so 6 years of GSs, and then had an RT before that. So I've ridden Boxer engines for the last going on 11 years. So obviously I like the engine, so it's hard to critique that. So what would I critique about the GS? Primarily what gets me about the GS, and I have told this to everybody that'll listen to me, is I think the transmission is really agricultural. So by that, I mean, if you compare it to when I go ride another bike, Yamaha or Larry, when I did some of the Versus bikes at a Kawasaki demo day or the Yamaha Tracer at their recent demo day, anytime I go to a Japanese bikes, the transmission shifts so beautifully and so easily. The quick shifter, even on the Ducati, the quick shifter works seamlessly from first gear up through everything. You don't have to be on the throttle hard or off the throttle, up and down. It's all near an automatic. For whatever reason, I don't know if it's the box or whatever, the GS doesn't do that. It is really clunky. It's you can't use a quick shifter, and really until you are into third gear. You can occasionally try it from second to third, but you have to be hard on the throttle for it to work well. And then even from third up to sixth, again, you've got to be on the throttle pretty good for it to work well. Otherwise, it jerks. I almost never use it for downshifting because I just don't think it works very well. So that's my big critique is the transmission's a bit agricultural. The quick shifter is terrible for what it is, especially in this day and age.
Now, why do you call that agricultural?
It shifts like a tractor.
It shifts like a tractor. Yeah. It like I've ridden your bike. I've tested your bike out. It is buttery smooth from gear to gear. Even the Yamaha Tracer that I test rode, it's smooth. The Ducatis that I've ridden, they're so smooth going from gear to gear, whether up or down, even using the clutch. No, whatever it is, the Boxer engines, it's clunky as hell. Also, while I'm on the transmission, it's rare to be able to find neutral from first gear. 9 times out of 10, I'm clicking up into second and then coming back down. A lot easier to find neutral from second gear. So there's that.
Yeah, it's interesting. Sorry to stop you there, but I had told you guys when I did California Superbike School, I rented. I was using their BMW S1000RR. on which the quick shifter is awesome. Up, down, first through, sixth gear, beautiful. Except you just couldn't shift into neutral. Like that was the only, the only little caveat. But
so maybe it's, this has been bandied about on some of the online forums that perhaps it's the boxer engine and the way it delivers torque. For whatever reason, or the transmission that they hook up to it, I don't know. But they drastically changed the transmission from earlier years to the new years. The new liquid cooled, they moved the clutch from between the engine and the transmission to now where the clutch is sitting on the front of the transmission. Does that have an issue with it? I don't know. So that's my critical parts of it. Obviously, I love the GS though, because I've bought 2 of them and have ridden them for years. I love the boxer engine, the torque curve that it gives, the passing power that it has on the street, in the twisties, being able to pull out of a turn. Like the bike in the twisties, I can embarrass quite a few sport bike riders up in the mountains. So that is a lot of fun. And if I come to a dirt road, though I don't have the skills that much on dirt, I can at least still ride the bike on dirt and not be scared or I got to turn around and find someplace new to go. So those are the good points. Trying to think as far as if there's any other major critical piece. Oh, the seat. The seat on a GS is terrible. Kevin, I don't think you still got the stock seat. I lasted on my first GS a couple thousand miles, though I kept looking for alternative solutions. I put a bead the beaded seats on. I put a sheepskin seat cover on it. I did the beads and the sheepskin cover together. Finally, I had enough. I went through 6 different seats trying to find something that would fit. Finally, went to a Russell Daylong, had one custom made for the front and the back seat. But I think the BMW seats were just terrible.
Well, in terms of the padding or the shape, or
they were just, it's hard to say. It was just, 2 hours. You just felt fatigued and you were ready to get off the bike. Where that's my biggest thing that I always say about the Russell Daylong is that no matter how long the ride is, I never think about my butt. So take that for what it is.
I'll add when I get to mine, I'll expand on that a little bit.
Yeah,
right,
because
well, what about you?
Because Kevin, I think we should stay with the GS because Kevin just bought a GS and he's new into it. So I've got several years of ownership of these. So I've learned what its quirks are, and there are definitely BMW quirks.
So talking about seat, coming from the Super Tenere and having taken the last year before I got the GS and put the stock seat back on it. The stock seat on the GS is world and beyond an improvement over like what Yamaha puts on theirs as a stock seat. It's not though as good as the Russell Daylong I got for the Tenere. Now the Tenere's Daylong was not customized to me. It was this guy got it, never really used it. It wasn't sprung in my weight or anything, but it was better. And better than the stock BMW seat. The issue I have with the stock BMW seat is it's adjustable, right? You can adjust it in the front, you can adjust it in the back, you can do all these little adjustments, except for the fact that you pretty much have to put the front of the seat in the high position and the back of the seat in the medium or low in the low position to level the seat out so you don't slide up on top of the tank when you stop. And funny thing is, the Tenere had the same problem. It was actually worse. But it's noticeable, and it has a lot to do with the comfort because with the seat tilting down like that, the support that the seat should be giving you it's being pulled away from you because it's tilted downward and not up next to your thighs, and you're spreading your weight out.
So it's funny you should mention that, because I have completely forgotten about it, because I had done this with my bike as soon as I got it back in 2018. I had done it with the other, is that I shim the front of the seat with some added washers so that it sits up an extra 1/4 of an inch from what the stock is, and that helps it.
Yeah. So, but a stock windshield in the twisties, it's great. On the interstate and clean air, it's great. And not clean air, it's not great. So, you know,
all right.
And
I'll second that one as well, because I have an aftermarket shield. So I got rid of the stock shield again, almost so early on. So I forget about these things, because I guess fixed some of these with aftermarket parts.
The pegs, or the stock pegs, like standing on a piece of rebar.
Yep, we both replaced our pegs with aftermarkets.
Yeah. Now, just because I'm tall, right, I did risers. So I don't really blame the bike for that. I blame me and you know, the unique little unicorn that I am. So
now, see, that one I have learned from. So when I had my GSA, I had 40 millimeter risers on it. And that was primarily so that off-road, I was comfortable standing on the bike. The handlebars were at a decent position. However, when I got the GS and I ride it, it's primarily an on-road bike, I didn't bother putting the risers on. I like the stock position. I have a very slight lean over into it. It's a little more aggressive, but I actually like that a little bit better.
Mine's for my shoulder pinch. Leaning over, you know, I get back fatigue and shoulder fatigue and everything. So the stock risers, even riding. Now, my plan, replace the seat, replace the shield, readjust the handlebars, and see where we're at that point, right? So I may be like, oh, well, you know, I need to do X or Y. But I've got 2-inch rock risers on them right now. I don't like how, and this is technically add-on stuff, you get the default luggage rack and you get the metal boxes, the panniers. Mm-hmm. I don't like how that, it seems like it would work really well. You kind of slide it into like this groove and it kind of physically locks into place. And then you take a lock and you can actually lock it securely, but there's a physical retention thing there. The problem is the bike, if you drop it at all, things get torqued and just slightly out of shape so easily that you can get the box off, but when you try to put it back on, you're almost beating the box back on sometimes to get it mounted up and flush enough to be able to actually secure it with the lock that's on the pannier to the luggage rack. So that's one thing that's not great.
And I run different panniers than you. I've got the stock Vario panniers that so I don't have the scaffolding and the metal boxes anymore.
Right. Yours just clips right to
mine just kind of hook in.
Yeah.
I would prefer if they were top opening. I miss the top opening of the aluminum cans rather than the side opening bags. But other than that, I like that I can take those Vario cases on and off, and the bike looks good without them on. There's no scaffolding. However, because of the exhaust on the right-hand side, that Vario case on the right, unless I open it up, there's virtually no room in it. The case has about 2 inches of room in it, which is totally useless.
Well, that's what everybody says when they see those things. When they're like, "Wow, those things are big," and I'm like, "Yes, they are," but they're still inside my handlebars, so I don't care. And I'll say that I don't plan on taking the panniers off road. I like my ankles, and so I'm going to get a set of some kind of soft luggage. I don't know what it's going to be. Masimoto is kind of the preferred in the GS Giants kind of community and most GS guys, but I'm going to look at some of the other ones. But I do I do like my panniers, and I'll probably keep them on traveling on the road. I just like the way they are and everything. But I like the bike just scaffold. I just like the. Of course, I guess I'm used to it because of KTM. I never put it has logo track on it, and I never. It's just a handle to help me pick it up, So it's just another grab point back in the back. So I like the idea, just riding around without the boxes on. I've done that several times.
Yes. So this is good hearing from someone who has just recently bought the bike, because I've had mine for so many years and have two of them, and I took much of what I had on the first GS and just moved it over to the second. So I have made up for the challenges that I had with the bike, with the seat, the windshield, the pegs, with aftermarket parts that I really like and made the bike great for me. But stock, those things had to be added on at a cost of several $100s on top of the cost of the bike.
Speaking of costs, I got a couple other things. One is, I don't like the fact that I understand, hey, you need to get this reflashed. We've got a software update for it and everything. You have to take it to the dealer to get that done. I get that, but I think that they should make it to where any dealer will do that, and they can't tell you no, and we already know that some dealers do that. We've talked about that multiple times. On top of that, the fact that it's like a 5-hour process to flash the bike is ridiculous, because BMW doesn't let them maintain that file. The system that they use is a proprietary system that they punch up the file, it downloads it from Germany, applies it to the bike, and then deletes the history of it. So if you've got 10 GSs in a row you need to flash, each one of those they have to re-download it.
Right. Now let's clarify though, as far as when you're saying flash, there's two different types. What I think you're speaking of is the TFT update software, which I agree should be online. Anybody should be able to do that, and it takes a long time. But there is a second type of flash, an ECU.
Yeah,
now,
the ECU.
I think that's very rare that the dealer touches your ECU. Usually only if there is some type of bulletin. And that's normally prescribed. But the TFT software has been constantly updated since it came out 2 years ago. My bike was the first to have it. And the dealership's a bore trying to and talk you out of doing it. They don't want to do it as warranty work. And like you said, it ties up one of their bays for several hours while that software downloads from the mothership.
And they've only got, like most dealerships, only have one machine to do it with. And so, you got to get that scheduled. And I mean, that's just one of those things of, hey, while you're doing my valve check, can you update that? Except for the instances of, like there was actually the one that I found out that at some point there was a date that, hey, this feature is going to turn off after a certain date. And they like picked just a day in the future. It was just like this random date. And all of a sudden, like a lot of things, accessory lights and stuff like that just wouldn't work. Like the button didn't do anything after a while. It wasn't recognized. And it was like something. Then that's what they thought. Like, it was this date that they had in there. They've removed that constraint, and this will fix it. And there was a bunch of other stuff that was fixed, but that had that fix in there. Because that was what was wrong with my accessory lights, is the fact that they're like, we've got to reflash this. It's a known issue with this version of the software. And I'm like, well, awesome. So I know exactly what happened. I'm not going to get into that. They forgot to put in their dates when they were actually doing their what is it? Feature switches and stuff like that. They were using dates for feature switches and stuff, and left it in there.
So let me add one more item that I forgot as you were talking about that I forgot, as far as I don't know whether you've noticed this yet, but if you try and hold a steady throttle at between 4,000 and 4,500 on the RPMs on the bike, there is significant surging. There's also a significant torque dip at about 4,500 to 5,000 RPM. It's just the nature of the boxers and the way they have the fueling done. So I don't know if you've gotten to that point yet. Again, I always forget about that because I've solved that on my bike. I had my ECU tuned and flashed to fix those issues.
I have noticed. I don't know. It's very subtle, and it's literally you have to be. I've only noticed it in cruise. You know, if I'm in cruise control or something like that, and it's sitting there, that every once in a while it just seems like it'll, you know, lull just for a second and then surge back up, and then it's fine for a while. Then about the time you forget about it, it'll do it again. You know, and I wonder if it has more to do with the delayed reaction for when it's going up an incline. I don't know. Or decline.
I think it's the fueling in that 4,000, 4,500 RPM
I can
range,
see that.
especially when you have just a little bit of throttle on. Because after I did the flash, I don't have that at all.
Well, let me see if I can think of anything else. I'm not a huge fan of the stock tires that come on the bike. I think they're the Anarchy Adventures or the Anarchy 3s. I can't remember. I'm not a huge, the Anarchy 3s, I think. I'm not a huge fan of that tire. It's a perfectly fine tire, just not a huge fan. I've had several instances where I needed more grip than it was willing to give me at the moment, and I noticed. Let's see. I mean, obviously it's a heavy son of a gun if you ever get it tipped over, which I've unfortunately have experience with. You said something that I wanted to comment about.
Well, how do you like the bike overall? I mean,
so we went through all the bad stuff, right? The good stuff. I really like the power delivery, rolling on the throttle. I feel like I've got enough power to pass anybody at any time at any RPM. I just roll on and go. I like how the modes, if you use them, are there and they work well, but you know, the rain mode is not neutered. It has everything that I want in the rain as far as power and roll on. And I mean, to me, it in the rain mode is better than the Tenere ever was. And I love the capabilities there. I'll tell you something that I don't like. The way the TFT display is awesome. So I do like the TFT display. Their choices on what they'll let you show, like you can like flip through and be like, okay, well, at the very top, you can see your range left. You can see all these other things. And then they give you like they eat up part of the real estate showing you that, hey, you've got this little device plugged in. Well, no crap. I'm the one that plugged it in. I know that. Give me that real estate back and let me customize what that shows all the time by being able to say, I want to see these three things all the time as like my default selection. Then if I tab through to see something else, that's great because there's enough real estate up there to show a lot more and customize it. Because if I could have, you know, here's your miles left, here's your miles on in the trip one setting, you know, together, that would be awesome. You know, expected range left and the miles you've done on the trip. I would love to have both of those just up there all the time, you know. And then if I wanted to see, you know, the little graph that shows how much gas I have left in the tank, I could flip to that. If I wanted to see, you know, how long the engine's been idle because, or, you know, how long since the last time I've reset the trip meter because I care about that for some reason. You know, I can't. So I mean, there's some settings there and the way that works. My biggest complaint is the nav thing, the little arm that holds the nav unit. In 2019, they should have took a step of that and been like, you know, we might want to make that an option, you know, because it's on every one of the bikes, whether or not you get the nav or not. Right. And so to me, if I'm right, it's on every bike. It's in the way. And now I have the nav. I put it in there. I learned a lesson a couple of weeks ago that if you haven't ridden for a while, the little battery on it will die, and you've got to ride it around to charge it back up, and then shut the bike off, turn the bike back on, and it'll come back up. I didn't realize that. Apparently, that was the thing that happened. But as far as like, so we listed all the bad stuff, right? What do I like about it? I love the way
let me add one more while you're still on the TFT, because I've admonished this in a number of forums. I think the TFT is beautiful. It's one of the best that I've seen on any bike as far as being able to. It's clean, it's intuitive, it's easy to navigate. I love the Wonder Wheel that is on the left-hand handlebar that you can control the TFT and the GPS with it. The bad, what BMW touts as their total whatever communication, where the TFT can be the center of your Bluetooth communication hub and hook in your phone and your headsets and your GPS and be able to manage all of that together. Yeah, bull. It doesn't work. Some people get it to work some of the time, but it is a horrendous system as a central Bluetooth managing all of your connections. I have stopped using it. I don't even use it. Even though I've updated the TFT software, it still doesn't really work. So, and BMW it's just not an area that they excel in. So I've come to accept that.
Yeah, I like the concept there. My issue is I have two bikes and I have two helmets, and that transitioning between all these different bikes and helmet combinations and the phone and having it be the hub just doesn't work for me. It just doesn't. And I've experienced the same thing to where it didn't connect to the bike when I restarted after a gas refill. So I've just, honestly, it's working the way I want it to work. I don't know what's connecting to what right now, but I know that when I can hear the GPS, when it talks to me, I can hear my phone when it talks to me, and I can make phone calls and listen to music and everything. I'm happy. So I took the bike out of it and connected my GPS, my Bluetooth to the GPS and to my phone, and the bike it's been pulled out of the thing there. So
before you get into your pluses,
okay.
on mine, I just wanted to quickly summarize them because Larry had asked. So I have over the years fixed, if you will, a lot of the things that didn't work for me for the GS. I really like the bike, obviously, because I bought a second one. However, when I bought my second one, a good monetarial factor in buying another GS was that I had a whole bunch of Farkles on the current GS that I could bring over onto the new one and wouldn't have to do that with another brand of a bike. So that did factor into it. But the bike is, I've gone through all of that, and now the bike is set up great. I like it, but I've had to invest and fix things. I don't know if that's different from every bike. Maybe all other bikes you've got to do the same with it. I kind of enjoyed that with the GS, but the character of it, that's what I love about the bike. And it's just, it can do everything. It's a pack mule. You could throw 500 pounds of stuff on that bike and go for a multi-day trip, and you just keep strapping stuff to it, and it won't care, and it'll take on anything stripped down in the twisty. So that's my basic summary. So yeah, Kevin, I'll let you go to the 500 pounds, you like.
500 pounds is a lot of underwear.
That's including the body. Unfortunately, I take up half of that. So
yeah. I like everything that Tom said. I mean, I haven't put that much underwear on it, but I like everything that Tom said. I agree with that. The quick shifter, downshifting. I've played around with this a lot. To me, the quick shifter is a it's not something that say, hey, use this all the time kind of feature. Some bikes it is, but I look at the GS as more of it's an aid, right? Hey, I need to accelerate and go. I need to just not roll off the throttle. That's usually going to happen going to third to fourth to fifth to sixth, right? I think of it as I'm getting onto a major interstate or highway, and I need to merge, and I need to go, you know. And so full throttle, get the revs up there, pump, it's smooth as silk. 1 to 2 to 2 to 3, you think you broke it. I mean, it's violent. And that just tells me it's saying, don't do that, you know? And so I'm like, okay, listen, learn. Downshifting. I've never had a problem with the downshifting, but when do you use it? When the bike is lugging out, right? I'm thinking of a hill climb, and I'm running out of steam and I need a downshift. And I just quickly roll off the throttle, downshift, and keep going. But I'm not, you know, wanting to pull the clutch, you know, because I'm not wanting to lose any momentum whatsoever. It's an aid. And so it's just that quick boom, and you're going, trying to keep it going, and you're back on the throttle. I will say that I haven't really tried that in the wild. I haven't had it off road yet. In that situation, I've just kind of played with it in scenarios, and it seems to do better then. On the interstate, if you're going down the interstate, and let's say that, you know, you pull the clutch in and you coast forever, right? Well, you've already got the clutch pulled in, so you downshift, right? Well, let's say that you just let it just go, and you just don't put the clutch out. You just roll off the throttle and you're just coasting. You know, and there becomes a point where you downshift and it just goes down and it's smooth and there's not an issue. But to me, that's not the use case for it. The use case is I'm going up this really rocky thing. I'm doing everything I can to hold on to the bike, and I don't want to roll off, pull in the clutch, completely remove all power for that amount of time, and then have to downshift, get back into the friction zone, find it. And, you know, that's where you can lose a lot of power and a lot of momentum doing that. Now, granted, my technique sucks when in that situation, and I'm not an expert off-road rider, and some of them, you know, you can't even tell they downshifted, they just go. You just hear the engine. For those of us who aren't that good, I think it's just an aid. And I appreciate it, and I like it for what it does. I've got no problems with it. I've actually got a couple other guys that I told them how I was using it, and they're just like, oh, wow. And they came back and were talking to me just like, yeah, I never used the thing, but I did it last night. It was awesome. So, but yes, that third to fourth to fifth is great. Like I said, I love the power. I like the ergonomics of it. I like the way the bike handles, the way it flows. As heavy as a bike as it is, I'm going to hit my microphone 100 times tonight for some reason. As heavy as a bike is, it's really flippable. It's maneuverable. You know, you can move around on the bike. It's got plenty of space. But you're down in the bike when you want to be down on the bike. It's easy to ride up, standing up on the bike. And you know, and that's a great thing about all the complaints that we've had just about is they're fixable with other parts. You know, it's like they can't make a bike that's going to make everybody happy all the time. So they make a bike that makes some people happy some of the time. And then it's up to us to fix it and stuff. So now let me switch gears. I'm going to quickly cover the KTM. KTM 690. It's 2017, I think. Anyway, love the engine on that. It's tall. I don't think I have my suspension set right. I don't know if the guy before I had it messed with the suspension and all, but I could never really get it tuned in like I liked it. But my bike seems taller than other KTMs that I've been beside that have not had the lowering link, the Kuba link on it. So I definitely want to get in with that and kind of mess with that a little bit. Like I've lost some weight since I said it, and I like to soften it up just a bit there, you know. But you know, that bike, going from a GS to that bike, you really do sit up tall on the bike. I mean, it's a dirt bike that you can ride on the street. So if you're used to sitting up on a bike, that's great. But it's a big bike. You know, I mean, it is a oversized dirt bike. And when I say oversized, I mean oversized. It's a 690 thumper, you know. So just keep that in mind. When you look at the 790s and the 890s, I think their seat heights are are lower than mine for sure, because I've put them beside each other, and mine's definitely higher. The seat on that one, on the KTM, is the worst seat ever. The aftermarket seat that everybody gets is slightly better than, sitting on a park bench. But somebody asked me, would you tour on that bike? Me personally, with my aluminum butt, no, I would not. I can't tolerate that. Just the knobbies and the vibes you get through that bike, on the road, adventure touring, no. Riding it down a road for 10, 15 miles to get on the trail, to be up on the feet, riding it in the trail, or it's actually, sitting on it, riding down the trail, it's fine. But just on the road with knobby tires, it just seems to beat you and vibe you to death. But I do love the bike. It's a lot of fun. It's got just more power. So it's great. Let's see. That would be my quick review of that one. Oh, the one thing about the KTM, you turn off the APS, you turn off the bike, you got to return off the ABS, and it's not like, it's really easy on the GS. You just like hold a little button down. They've got a button. It's up on the dash, and you don't really know if you're pressing the button or not, because it gives you no feedback whatsoever. And so you're sitting there, and it's supposed to be 5 seconds, but sometimes it's 10, and other times it's 3. And I don't really know. And well, why isn't it working? Then you stop and you start again, and everybody else is already gone. They've taken off because they've got dirt bikes, and you're just like, come on, I want to turn off the ABS. So, and I haven't tested the ABS on the GS, but when I have, it works well. All right, I'm done. Who's next?
How about Chris?
Chris.
What do you say?
Yeah, let's talk Kawasaki's. Larry, what do you think?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, that's right. You both own Kawasaki's. I keep forgetting that.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you both still own Kawasaki's?
The Japanese side. What's that?
Do you both still own Kawasaki's?
Yeah, he's got the Versus, and So I mean, mine the Z900 RS, right? I sold the Vulcan.
That's right.
About 6 weeks ago, something like that. So the one thing, and I've mentioned this before, that I would change about the bike, because really the bike is great for everything that I currently do with it. If I had cruise control, that would be really cool.
Cruise control is nice. Yeah,
for sure. I've never had it on a motorcycle. Granted, this motorcycle, it's not a touring bike, so it's not like it's something you would kind of expect them to have on as a feature. But given everything else I like about the bike, the fact that there's so many accessories, aftermarket things available, I've put on, I have removable side rails, right? So I can put Givy side cases. I've got my top case, so I can use it as a touring bike. So if I just had that one thing, that would be really cool. Other things, I mean, complaints about it are really kind of minor. One thing is, and I was thinking about, the Vulcan S was a 2016. So, okay, granted, 4 or 5 at this point, 5 years old. It just is odd to me. Like, even that vintage bike having a USB port is not a standard thing. Like, was not a standard thing, right? So in the case of the Vulcan S, what I had to do in order to have a USB port was install a relay kit, which was whatever it was like $40, so that I could then install the 12-volt cigarette adapter, which was $80 or something like that. And then I could put, plug in a 12-volt, like, a cigarette lighter with the 2 USB ports. So that kind of solved the problem. The Z900 RS also did not come with USB ports. At least it had the 12-volt, cigarette lighter thing installed, but it's under the seat, which, I mean, I like.
So you got to take the seat off to access it?
Yeah. Well, yeah. So I mean, so what I did was
it's hard to do while you're riding.
So I have my cigarette, my 12-volt to USB adapter thing is plugged in under the seat, and then I just ran a USB cable along the frame and up the triple clamp, up to the handlebars, and it's all zip tied and it's all nice and neat. But it's like, come on, guys, like, I don't, and the seat is not that easy to remove. Actually, so there's another, it's a minor thing, but on the Z900 RS, to unlock the seat, there's a key lock under the fender, the rear wheel. So you got to, take the ignition key, stick it up under. Now, granted, this is not an off-road bike, so it shouldn't be too filthy, and it's got a little cover on the thing, but it gets dirty and whatever. So you have to flip that down, get the key in there, jiggle it around. You can't really see what you're doing, so you can release the seat and pull the seat off. And also like they had a little toolkit that was under there with that I removed a long time ago. I'm like, I'm not dealing with that if I need to use the tools. The tools just go in the top case. The other thing, and I had this with the Vulcan S, and I don't know if this is a Kawasaki thing or it's just a standard thing with motorcycles. It's like, to me, the kickstand foot pad is just never big enough, right? So like even like I remember running into that the Vulcan S, right? Parking in a parking lot in the summertime, the asphalt gets a little soft or whatever. And I remember the bike almost not tipping over, but it was like the kickstand like sinking into the pavement. It's like, this is not good, So that both bikes.
I think that's a problem in most bikes. We've solved it with extenders. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's so both bikes I put extenders on, and you could do it. Like, it's easy. It's not that big a deal, but it's like, if everybody's doing this, could we just kind of make it a standard feature kind of thing? The other thing, and this is it's the way the bike is. It's the and I decided to go with it, and it's my second one. It's chain drive, which it's not like I don't mind doing the maintenance, but it's honestly a pain. I could definitely see the attraction of either a belt drive, or, and I know we've talked about this before too, or a shaft drive, and especially like for touring, right? Someone who's doing touring lots and lots of miles, I could see you're just not going to want to have to deal with a chain like every 500-600 miles, to clean it and whatever. And particularly like what I just did recently, for me, I'm at an age now where I don't really enjoy like sitting on the floor in the garage so I can clean the chain. I do have a paddock stand, so I can lift the rear wheel, so at least I can easily turn the wheel and clean the chain or whatever. But it's like at this point, it's like I'm not too big on sitting on the floor or whatever. So I actually just haven't gotten it yet, but I ordered one of these. I don't know if you guys have seen it. It's called ABBA Skylift. It's basically like I had thought about getting like a hydraulic table, like Harbor Freight, right? For $400 you can buy like their lift, like what the motorcycle mechanics use. But I don't really have the space for something like that because it's just a one-car garage and we got two motorcycles. I'm like, it's going to take up too much floor space. So basically what this thing is, it's a jack, but basically, there's different pins that you can get. So it works with all kinds of different, like 300 varieties of motorcycle, but basically you have a pin that inserts either side of the swing arm, where the swing arm mounts to the frame. And then you've got just a hydraulic jack, and it just lifts the whole bike off the floor.
Oh.
Handle.
They're really cool, but
700 pounds.
Yeah, they're really cool, but they're sketches. I'll get at when you look at the bikes going up there. You're just like, that doesn't look secure. But I mean, everybody raves about them once they've had them for a while.
Yeah, so that's remains to be seen. Like I watched the videos and it all looks good and the reviews seem to be good. But and then it's on wheels, so like once the bike is lifted, you can just easily move it around and whatever. So anyway, but the point I'm getting at is like that's my solution for the chain maintenance. At least I can put the bike on there, lift it up, so I could just sit on my little Harbor Freight mechanic stool or whatever, and just like a gentleman kind of clean and clean and lube the chain or whatever. So we'll see how that works out. I mean, the only caveat is they're made in England, and as we know, England's been under further lockdown, so supposedly they have more manufactured going out the 18th, but we'll see.
No,
So
I'll
have to report back on that. But let me see other features. I mean, things really nothing else I don't like. I know some people criticize bikes of this type, like Kawasaki's and bikes in this kind of genre because of all the plastics and stuff, which I get. And that's the thing. Like, right, if you're into the Harleys and Indians and whatever, one of the reasons they're as heavy as they are and they're more expensive is there's a lot of metal components. Like on my bike, the fenders are plastic. There's the little side pieces and stuff are plastic. To me personally, I don't care. It's like if it saves some weight, that's fine. It's painted and it looks nice. But I know that's a thing for some people. Let me think pluses. I mean, for sure, like probably one of the things I love the most about the bike is it's for me, for now at least, it's the right amount of horsepower. It's 100 and I don't know what it is, 125 horsepower or something like that. The torque is awesome. I mean, you have torque all over the rev band. Not on purpose, but I've actually started from a stop in fourth gear. That's just that's how much, without lugging the engine at all, it's how much torque it has. And so it is one of those things. Whatever gear you're in, whatever speed, you just twist the throttle and you go, kind of thing. So that's really kind of nice. And I guess this is a feature of the inline 4. Very little problem with vibration. Unlike the Vulcan, where there were certain rev bands, right, where I would get pretty heavy vibration, enough that the rear view mirrors would like shake, like you could not see in the rear view mirror. There's really no rev range with this bike where you get, there may be a little vibration, but nothing like I experience with the Vulcan S. So, so that's kind of my synopsis of it. What about you, Larry?
Yeah, Larry, you want to take us into the wee hours of the morning with your 5 pages of
dissertation thesis?
We really should have let him go first. Just saying.
So, okay, well, settle down, people. I will get into my review. It actually isn't that long. So I only have my Versus 650 to report on. This was a 2016 Kawasaki Versus 650 LT. And I bought it used with about 18,000 miles on it. And so it's the LT version. So it did come with side bag standard. And the previous owner had added quite a few extras, all of which I was really, most of them I really wanted. So these included a Kawasaki top case, key match to the bags and the bike key, a shift indicator, which this year a bike did not come with. He also added fog lights. He added a touring windscreen. He added engine guards, which I didn't really care about because I wasn't going off-road. And the bike had a lowered suspension, which I did want. The standard suspension I could straddle, but it didn't feel as secure as lowering the suspension an inch or so, or two, did on this bike. It also happens to have a kickstand with a larger pad, I think, than the standard, which was a nice addition. This guy, I think, took the bike off-road a fair amount, so a lot of the stuff was added with that in mind. The bike, from the start seemed to fit me to a T. The only problem that I encountered initially when I was riding the bike is that the seat seemed tilted down. And so I would slide down onto the tank, after I'd been riding it for a while. And going online, this seemed to be a common problem. And there actually was a fix online. There was a video on YouTube where you simply inserted some washers under the bracket for the front tongue of the saddle and raised the front tongue of the saddle an inch or two, and that sorted that problem out. So I did that, and that was easy enough to do. And for the rest of the bikes works well for me. I usually ride just with the top case. And the side cases, however, I like. They are clamshell cases, and that's kind of inconvenient when you open them. But if you use bags for any, stuff that you're carrying in the side cases, it's not so much of an issue. But for the normal riding, I just use the top case. I leave the side bags off. They do mount to the bike very easily, and the bracket is sort of built into the bike, so it's almost unnoticeable when they're off the bike. Let's see. The suspension I found to be quite compliant for road travel, especially in comparison to my previous bikes, a couple of Harleys I'd had. Braking is pretty strong, a little bit touchy at low speed. I'm always kind of jerking in the parking lot when I do some of my parking lot stuff. I have to remember to really be light on the brake lever. And the clutch is pretty light, and the transmission is, as we talked about, pretty smooth. It clunks into first pretty noticeably, but the rest of the gears are smooth and with a light clutch feel. The other thing is that this is a parallel twin, and it's I have to get used to the fact that the cylinders don't have as much weight as the big V twin on my Harley. So when I'm engaging first, I always have to feather it more carefully than I used to with the Harley. But that's something that I just have to get used to. The engine power is adequate. It's not neck breaking, and but I can move out when I need to. And the other thing about it is the exhaust is subdued unless you really crack the throttle. I have a standard exhaust on it. At speed, there's minimal buffeting and vibration, and it's quite comfortable cruising on the highway at 70, 80, whatever the speed limit is. And there is power to spare for passing. The red line on this engine is about 10,000, and I think when I'm cruising on the highway, it's around 6,000, 6,500. So there is room to there are RPMs to spare if you need them, and there is torque at that speed. Maneuverability is great on the road and even at slow speeds, although it gets a little top heavy at slow speeds with a full tank of gas. And I get about 45 to 50 miles per gallon, which is nice. It's got a 5-gallon tank. I am frustrated because I wanted to take long trips on the bike, but the first year I had it, I didn't get to do it. And last year, where I had planned to do it, it was interrupted. But I think the bike is pretty well suited for long rides, as I have it equipped, except that it doesn't have cruise control. And as we mentioned, that I think is a really desirable thing to have if you're going to be on the highway for any length of time. I guess my biggest beef about the bike, and other people have mentioned this, is that it kind of lacks character. It's so neutral and quiet and vibrationless and polite that I can't really characterize the bike in any way. It's kind of bland. It is a versatile, Swiss Army knife bike that can do a lot of things pretty well, but it doesn't do anything great, I would say, and that's its biggest drawback. But it suits me at this point in my life in terms of what I want to accomplish on riding. So overall, I'm happy with the bike. And the other thing I can say is that it's been very reliable. I have had no mechanical problems with it so far, knock on wood, to speak. And
very cool.
There you go.
So since I kicked us off, let me end us with a quick question and we'll go around the horn. Knowing what you know today, would you buy that bike again?
Yeah.
Larry, since you just went last.
Yeah, well, that's an interesting question. It would be in the running. I think that the other bike that I looked at pretty closely when I was thinking about this was the Tracer, the 900 Tracer GT, and I would have to take a hard look at that again if I were, considering rebuying a bike at this point. So, I think that, again, given where I am and what I want to use the bike for, I think I might still go for it. But I would be looking at other similar kinds of bikes that perhaps have a little bit more power and a little bit more character.
All right. Chris, how about you?
In a heartbeat. Yeah, absolutely. Like
Wow,
for where I am now, like and this could change in a year or two. I may be singing a different tune, but for where I'm at now, yeah, absolutely. The one thing I would say regarding the Vulcan S, I love that bike. It really was. It was a great first bike. Like absolutely. The thing is, and this is something people warn you about. Like, it's kind of tough when you're buying your first bike. Is I did probably outgrow it a little quick. And that different strokes for different folks, right? I mean, I know people, that have the Vulcan S and they've had it for years and years and years, and they're going to keep it because it just suits them. For me, I just was at a point where I wanted more power, honestly. So, I don't know that it wasn't a wrong bike to buy initially. But if I had known I was going to outgrow it in 2 years, I might have chose differently, I guess. But yeah.
Cool. So Kevin, you're the one who has purchased the bike the soonest, or the latest out of the last four of us, and you're the new GS rider. How about you? Would you make that decision again?
Yeah, I definitely buy the GS. Would I have gotten the nav on it? Don't know, but everything else, yes. I probably would have not gotten the stock auxiliary lights. I would have gotten something aftermarket, and I'd have mounted them differently after I would have gotten the crash bars and engine guards, which I still haven't done what I need to do. But a couple of the Farkles that I got when I got the bike, I might play with that. But the bike itself, absolutely. The 690, I don't know. Yes, probably. But for the type of riding I ended up doing on it, the 690 may have been too much bike for me. I like the 690, but my skills compared to the 690 are drastically different. Having something smaller may have been better for me, but I'm looking at that after accidents and drops and not able to reach the ground and stuff like that when I was doing poor technique more than anything.
Well, that's the whole idea, knowing what you know. Would you would you buy it again?
Now, if I were to be where I wanted to be on the 690, yeah, absolutely, it's a great bike. But it's maybe. It's a maybe. But absolutely with the GS.
Cool.
And Tom, what about you?
I think so. So I'm always have an eye out for that next bike, or would I change to something else? And it was funny because Chris mentioning about cleaning the chain and having to get a lift to make it easier to do chain maintenance. That's one of the things that keeps me away from a BMW competitor like a KTM or the Ducati Multistrada, is going back to a chain. I haven't cleaned a chain in almost 11 years. I've had shaft drive bikes. So right now, there's nothing else on the market that appeals to me. So yeah, I would still get the GS because it fits all of my needs. I can ride it like a sport bike. I can do a dirt road if I want. I can pack it up with my wife and a bunch of gear, and we can go on multi-day trips with it. So yeah, I think I still would. But I'm still going to test ride the 4-cylinder or the V4 Multistrada when it comes out.
Oh, nice.
See what that's like.
Yeah. Well, see, but that's a thing though. That I will have to say. Like I will try any bike. Like I'm always interested in riding something different.
Well, don't forget the new Harley Davidson off-road, the adventure.
The Pan America.
Yep.
Pan America. Yep.
Not as excited about it, but if there's a chance, most definitely I will ride it. With the pricing, I'd like to see some of the other specs on it, but they released some of the pricing.
Yeah, which is not too
recently.
bad, actually. Right.
And I'm curious if that's pricing like. Is that pricing out near what it's going to be on the street, or is that pricing like BMW does? Because a new BMW GS starts MSRP is in that same price range, in that 17, 18.
Yeah. Well,
it's a unicorn though. You can't buy that bike. That's stripped down stock.
Yeah. So, in the United States, they almost always put the premium package on them. Right. And that adds like $5,000. So $23,000 is in the US pretty much the base price for a GS, because most dealerships order them that way. And that doesn't include your engine guards. It doesn't include racks or luggage or anything like that. So, take that into consideration as well. I would say that from what I have seen from Harley, that price will include the bike. And from everything I've seen, and I'm no expert on this, but I've just noticed that I haven't seen one at all without it. Engine guard, and they're kind of weird looking engine guards, and what looks like a pretty substantial, bash plate on the bottom. So, those two, that goes a long way. If they include that in the base price, that would be awesome of them to do. We'll see. I think they will, to keep it, underneath what a GS and a KTM are.
We'll see. For us on Adventure Bikes, we'll have to see what it does. I think the big unveil is the 21st of this month, something like that. They're doing a virtual unveiling in the U.S.
It's kind of we're unveiling it for like the 5th time. We've all seen pictures. They're in dealerships behind little plexiglass things in certain areas of the country. So you can walk around them, just don't touch. So.
Yeah, and I'm curious as to, is it, okay, here's the unveiling, and it's a 2022 model that you can get this fall. Or is it actually going to be in the dealerships in, say, March or
Well,
April,
remember, part of their
that.
strategy was to release the bikes earlier in the year to capitalize on the full motorcycle season.
Right.
And that was supposed to come out last year. So I think they pushed it to this will be available in April.
Yeah, I agree.
April, May, I think
All
it'll
right.
be available. So we'll see.
And then again, it's got a chain. Lord was just telling me on the chat, don't fear the chain. I do.
Yeah, I mean, trust me.
The chain in almost a dozen years. So sorry, Lloyd. I fear the chain. It's
Rodney would kill me. I think he was the last person like a year and a half ago that serviced my chain on my KTM. So but after this year, I wrote it and I was like, I need to do that, and it's been all the way in the back of the garage since then. And when I pulled it out, I was like, I need to set this thing up and go over the chain with some cleaner and some lube, but no, it didn't happen. All right, so let's start wrapping up.
Don't forget. Hold on. Don't forget that we reported on the chain coming out that BMW is using that doesn't need lubrication. Remember?
Yes.
Yeah.
You're right.
So that may be.
Still probably got to clean
I'm waiting
it,
for the Kawasaki version, or for Kawasaki to license it or whatever.
Well, yeah, we'll see. That take us forever to get through. So, all right. Big thank you to everybody that supports the show. Our patrons, you guys are awesome. If you're interested in joining, go to the website throttledpodcast.com. Click on the Patreon logo. We would really appreciate it. Or patreon.com/throttled, I believe is what it is. We'd love to have you sponsor the show and help us out. Just kind of helps us keep the lights on around here.
We'll give you our secret handshake.
Yeah. Outside of that, follow us on Twitter at Throttle Show. If right now it's going to be not much on there, but probably be posting more this spring. Instagram, Throttle Show. Facebook, Throttle Podcast. We do broadcast live most Sundays at 7:30 Central. And we do that via YouTube. So we post a link up 15 minutes before the show starts on Twitter and Facebook. So that's the best way to get the link. And we stream through YouTube so you can watch it. And it's there for you guys to listen to or watch while you're working later on. So check us out there. If you do check us out, do me a favor. Just click that subscribe button, that like button. Helps us out. And if you want to get notifications when we do go live, hit the plus button. Or the bell button. Sorry, wrong thing. The little bell notification. Feedback, write us feedback at throttlepodcast.com. Love getting your feedback. And you can go to the website, throttlepodcast.com. Click on the contact button, fill out the form, and get that in the same mailbox. And that is going to do it for our show tonight. Gentlemen, thank you so much for being here. It was a great topic. And everybody in the live stream, thank you for being active. As always, you guys are awesome. So who would like to sign out first? Chris, thanks for volunteering.
Okay, sure, no problem. So Tom, thank you for the topic. That was awesome. Larry, thank you for being a fellow Kawasaki rider.
You betcha.
So
Kevin,
yeah, we're split here. We got two Kawasaki's, two
BMW.
Well, see, the funny thing is I get to be both in Team Blue and in Team Orange. So
Yes.
No matter what, I was in Team Blue with Yamaha, and I'm in Team Blue with BMW. So
At
you
some
guys are
point,
just
Kevin,
team green.
at some
No,
point, Kevin, you're going to have to decide.
and so Kevin and Tom both are two bikes in the garage, right?
Yeah.
Or Kevin, you're two, right? You're not.
Yeah,
three.
I've got 2.
Yeah.
Technically, I've got 4, but that's a different story.
That's okay. Gotcha. The smaller ones, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. Gotcha. Well, that's cool. Actually, the family that rides. That's awesome.
We haven't gotten to that point yet, but we're trying.
Cool.
The family that'll drop a bike after you've been there for 5 minutes and break it. That's what we are right now. It's happened to me twice this year.
Okay. Well, whatever. At least it's family time. That's
It
a good
is.
thing.
It is.
Yeah. That's awesome. But it's been awesome joining you guys. I'm glad I don't always get a chance to do it, but it's always fun when I can. And thank you to everyone who joined in and is watching and listening tonight. And it's actually been kind of sort of mild weather. It's we had a little bit of snow up here. What do we have? About 6 inches, and then that melted and disappeared, and the roads cleaned up. So I'm hoping to get more riding in. It's like 30s, 40s, occasionally 50s. So almost as warm as it is by Larry. So hopefully I have more riding to report. But have a good week, everyone, and thanks for hanging out with us.
And as for me, I just want to tell everybody to stay safe this week and get out when you can, but and ride safe as well.
Tom?
Yep. And I'm going to again ditto that. If you're able to get out, go ahead. I'm not sure if I'm going to get much of anything in this week, unless it's out running some errands. But everybody have a good week and enjoy, and hopefully we'll talk with you soon.
All right, everybody. Hey, thanks so much for tuning in. We really appreciate it. Thanks for listening to us live. For those of you that did, we will see you all next week. If you do get out there and ride safe. We'll talk to you later. And everybody in YouTube world, thank you so much. You guys are, as always, are awesome. If you're watching us after the show, we really appreciate it. If you're not a subscriber, please subscribe. We'd love to have you on board. And think about getting the notification button. That helps you get notified when we do go live, and maybe you can join us. I'd like to see everybody there as well. So I think that's going to do it. Let me get over here to where I can actually shut this thing down. And we will... everybody.